Well, as Persia expanded, they tried to conquer everything, and I do mean everything, and tried to take over Greece. Well, I don't know why they wanted Greece. I mean, it was full of mountains and not a lot of arable land, farmland. But they wanted it anyhow. They were so greedy. Anyway, Persia tried to take over Greece, but they met with Athens and Sparta. Athens and Sparta were the main city states. If they were in high school, Athens would be considered the nerds, always debating, making sure everyone did their duties as citizens, and developing their direct democracy government. I call this 3Ds. But what nerds? Now, they didn't always have a democracy. They had a monarchy, an aristocracy, a tyranny, and a democracy. That's Matt D. They also had some tyrant lawmakers called Draco and Saloon, but enough of those nerds. In Sparta, they were kind of being your jocks, your football players. Maybe not too bright, but they were strong into military and had a very aggressive society. They had an oligarchy government, which means they had a small group that ruled. Think of it as your starting five on the basketball team. Well, one day, Persia was trying to take over Greece, and Athens was scared because, again, they were nerds, and asked Sparta to help fight against Persia. Sparta was like, "Of course we'll help you take down Persia." And that caused the Persian War. Of course, united Greece, Athens and Sparta won because, again, look at those abs. Persia lost, and Athens continued to preserve their independence, develop their culture, and their innovations, which caused the golden age of Pericles. He helped rebuild Athens and expanded their democracy and gave the Greek culture to the world in the areas of drama, history by Herodotus, and Thucydides. During this time, architecture occurred such as columns like the Doric, Ionian, and Corinthian. We kind of borrowed that. Check out Washington, D.C. If you hate math like me, well, those nerds gave us geometry. From Euclid and Pythagoras. The Pythagorean theorem. I know, right? What nerds? They had a great sculptor named Phidias who created the Parthenon, which was a temple for the goddess Athena, and he gave the chief god of Athens, Zeus, a statue. Yeah, they were polytheistic, believing in many gods. They also had philosophers who were called Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They thought all the time. So Sparta went back to camp and he started thinking, you know what? We should stuff Athens, those nerds, in lockers and flush their heads down the toilets. If we had toilets. And they decided to dominate Greece. I mean, the world doesn't really need smart people, right? So Sparta and Athens started fighting. I thought I was petty. However, they were so petty, they fought in the Peloponnesian War. And guess who won? You're right, Sparta. I mean, again, look at those abs. Sparta won, and Athens had to slow down their political power. There is a man named Philip II of Macedonia who decided to conquer most of Greece. He died, and then his son Alexander the Great took his daddy's empire and spread it from Greece to Egypt to India. I mean, he didn't get that name, the Great, for nothing, right? He died at the age of 32, but the Hellenic culture continued through trade. It continued right into ancient Rome. Rome liked Greek culture so much that they took their gods and changed their names. I call them the planet gods. The main god was Jupiter, and his wife name was Juno. I call them Juju. Rome liked Greek culture so much that they even decided to take their democracy and make it a representative democracy. I guess we like their government too because we took our government from them and have a republic. Their law code was the 12 tables, which was placed in a form for everyone to see. Ever heard of innocent until proven guilty? Yeah, we kind of stole that from them too. Like our government, they also have three branches called the Assembly, the Senate, and the Council. They also had a social structure consisting of the patricians, who were wealthy people, few in number, the plebeians, the poor majority, and the slaves. Think of it like this: patricians padded their wallets because they had a lot of money, and plebeians pleaded for money because they were poor. Now, the slaves, well, it wasn't based upon race, but they were prisoners of war, born into slavery, or they couldn't pay their debts. Rome grew through trade and had great achievements such as the aqueducts that carried water into the city, the Colosseum, which was a place for entertainment. People actually went there to fight wild animals to the death. Oh, how violent. They also developed Roman arches, not like McDonald's arches, but more for architecture. Rome grew and a leader by the name of Julius Caesar emerged. Julius Caesar was an ambitious man who wanted to become dictator for life. That means he wanted to be the sole ruler of Rome, kind of like Hitler in Germany, minus the mustache. But he wasn't that bad. Yet people liked being a republic and voting, so they weren't having it. Julius Caesar started a group called the First Triumvirate to help secure his power, but that didn't work. The Senate was not having that. So they called for a nice civil meeting with Julius Caesar and stabbed him in the back. I mean, literally, they killed him. Mark Antony wanted to become the first emperor of Rome, but Augustus Caesar was like, no, I got this. So he defeated Mark Antony and became the first emperor of Rome. However, the imperial Rome did not last long because they couldn't decide on a peaceful succession of emperors. However, we did get some cool names like July and August from the Julius Caesar family. You get it? Julius Caesar, July, August, Augustus. During Augustus' reign, he ruled and Rome had 200 years of peace called the Pax Romana. They had secure travel and trade, uniform money, prosperity, and stability. Also, people could spend time with their families. It was a peaceful time. Well, maybe not too peaceful. I mean, Rome also adopted Sparta's aggressiveness, and they had some aggressive methods of punishment if you tried to disrupt their peace. Now, there was one man who wanted to change the course of the world named Jesus Christ, who started saying that he was the Son of God. He taught if people were good and obeyed the Ten Commandments and his teachings, they would go to heaven. Yay! But if you were bad, they would go to hell, like burning hell. This brought forth a New Testament and developed the religion Christianity. The Romans didn't like this because they were polytheistic, and Christianity was monotheistic, so they crucified Jesus. However, Christianity continued to grow through a man named Apostle Paul, and today Christianity is the leading religion in the world, probably thanks to Emperor Constantine, who legalized Christianity in Rome. So Rome went from worshiping Jupiter to Jesus Christ. So Rome was a great empire, but it started to decline because their money started to lose value. Their military sucked. People lost faith in Rome and even the family unit, and they had attacks on their borders. So Emperor Constantine decided to move the capital of Rome to Byzantium to help protect it from the Germanic invaders. We will discuss them a little later. Renaming it to Constantinople, today is called Istanbul. That's 3 name changes. They changed their name more times than I can decide that Michael B. Jordan is hotter in this picture or that picture. Again, I digress. Constantinople was a seat of trade, and libraries were built to preserve Greek and Roman culture. There was a great emperor named Justinian who codified Roman law and reconquered most of Rome's territories. It was a great time for Rome until the East Coast and West Coast started beefing. Not that East Coast and West Coast beef, but it was the churches, the real gangsters. the Roman Catholic Church and the Greek Orthodox churches. Rome was the West Coast and Greek churches located in Constantinople was the East. Well, we could kind of talk about that famous 1990s West and East Coast beef and relate it to what was happening with the split of the churches, which was called the Great Schism. Let's say Tupac was on the west side and Biggie was on the east. Like Biggie, the leader was a patriarch, also known as a father, like Big Papa. You know, I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you get it. Anyway, however, on the West Coast, they had a pope. On the East Coast, the patriarch could get married like Biggie, who was married to Faith Evans. But on the West Coast, the pope did not get married like Tupac. West Coast, they spoke Latin because the church was in Rome. And the East Coast, they spoke Greek because, there was the Greek Orthodox Church. They also like using mosaics in their churches for religion icons, and the East Coast was like no images in our churches. So that was that.